Recording in progress. Nice little signal to get us started. A wonderful evening to everyone joining us today. My name is Eamon Gebre, VP of Advisor here at Sarwa. Today, I'm joined alongside a colleague of mine by the name of Faisal Abdul Shakur, who's going to be helping me basically demystify the material that we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about mastering the basics, a deep dive into Sarwa Trade, where we're going to walk you through the journey of the platform itself, help you to understand the different functions and the benefits of those functions themselves. We're also going to start talking about how you can conduct research to help you be better prepared when making investment decisions. By way of introductions, as I said, in my role here at Sarwa, I'm VP of Head of Investment and Advice here. I've been with Sarwa for just celebrated 4 years. Actually, so it's been an amazing journey.
Congrats.
Thank you so much. It's gone so quickly, actually. I've spent about 14 years in the region. Spent much of that time with HSBC. My something just was about to drop off my shelf here. My apologies. Spent most of the time with HSBC, working in a wealth management capacity, giving clients support and advice to help them achieve their financial goals. It's been a joy of mine for well over 20 years. And I started this journey back in Canada. I was a bank teller and kind of steadily progressed my career to becoming a senior financial advisor before I made my way over here to the region. And I was, lucky enough to be introduced to Sarwa, and I've been with them ever since. And it's been a joy being here. Faisal, would love to hear a little bit more about you for those who may not have had the pleasure of talking to you on a one-on-one basis.
Thank you, Eamon. Hello, everyone. Excited to be here with you today. As Eamon said, we're going to be talking about Sarwa Trade, mastering the basics, giving you a deep dive into the functionalities, the tools, and essentially some strategies that help you be a better trader or an investor. My name is Faisal Abdul Shakur. I am a wealth advisor here at Sarwa. I am almost at the 3-year mark, just a year behind Eamon. My experience essentially ranges within fintech across the US, Saudi, and most recently in the UAE. I am a CISI level 3 certified wealth and investment manager, and I'm really excited today to be here with you.
Pleasure is all ours, really, Faisal. I think let's see how many people we've got in the waiting area. Oh, we've got quite a people ready to go. I think it's a good time to start. And I think
Let's
as people
jump
kind
in.
of trickle in, and we welcome you. And this is a recorded session, so don't worry if you've missed anything. You will get a copy of this recording to review any finer points. So without further ado, let's jump into mastering the basics at Sarwa Trade. So as always, we start with some disclaimers, and I think it's really integral for us to cover them really quickly, especially to kind of address potential questions about, hey, what do you think is going to happen in the stock market? What do you think about the president-elect? What do you think is going to happen in China? We do not have a crystal ball, and as a result, we are not able to predict the future. So anything related to questions about stock tips or advice or investment strategies, we can give you an overview of best practices, but essentially we don't have the capacity to be able to inform you with, I would say, with certainty what's exactly going to happen in the stock market. And also, our views today should not be interpreted as one-on-one financial advice. Faisal and I, we spend our days talking to clients on a one-on-one basis, understanding their goals, understanding where they are, and helping them essentially draw a roadmap. But that takes a lot of context and understanding about their circumstances to be able to give them that accurate recommendation on what to do from an advice perspective. So today, really talking about best practices and helping you know the tools that are available to help yourself when it comes to trading. What is our agenda today? Well, as we said earlier, we're going to be talking about the Sarwa Trade platform. We're going to go through a detailed overview of each and every part of Sarwa Trade that help you better understand how to use it and when to use it. We are also going to be diving into how to review stocks on the platform itself and highlighting unique features to help you get a better understanding of those stocks themselves. We're going to go through the different order types, and this will make much more sense when we go through it, but you'll hear terms such as market orders, limit orders, auto trade. We're going to go through these topics themselves. We're going to give you an overview of options trading. And for those who may have caught the communications, maybe less than a month ago, we recently launched the feature to be able to trade options on Sarwa. So in case you missed it, here's your opportunity to get a quick overview about options trading as well. And we're going to end our session today and A common question that we get here is, well, when someone says do your research, what does that entail? We're going to walk you through what that means when it comes to doing your research to help you better select the stock, to help you succeed. And of course, as usual, we're going to end it with a Q&A session. We welcome any and all questions. The ones that we can address, we'll be happy to address. And if not able to, we definitely welcome you to a conversation afterwards. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Faisal, take it away from here.
Thank you, Eamon. And just to add, please feel free to drop a question in the chat function or the Q&A function throughout. We'll get to those at the end. Don't shy away from asking any question. So let's dive in. Before I get into the trade platform overview and understanding, the trade dashboard, what is Sarwa Trade? So Sarwa Trade is a user-friendly platform that makes it easy for anyone to start investing and trading with confidence. And it brings together a wide range of assets, including stocks, ETFs, cryptos, and just as Eamon mentioned more recently, options. And all of this is in one place. And essentially, it can enable you and give you the tools to build a diversified portfolio. You'll have access to over 4,000 US listed stocks and a variety of cryptocurrencies. So Settle Trade gives you the tools to execute any strategy you choose, helping you shape your portfolio to fit your unique goals and interests. Now, let's dive in. What does the trade dashboard look like? So some of you might be familiar with this, some of you have already experienced it, but when you launch the Settle app, you'll see at the very bottom, the trade icon. So once you click on the trade icon, it will launch you onto the trade dashboard. So when you're in the trade dashboard, you should see something like this. So at the very top, you'll see your account balance, right? How much is your portfolio value, your earnings in dollar figure, your returns in a percentage figure, your net deposits, and so on. Right below it, you'll see the search section or the search bar. This enables you to find the specific stock or specific crypto or ETF just with a few clicks. Right below that, you'll have your cash bar. So essentially, why would the cash bar be important? It shows you your buying power, how much you are able to trade, whether it's a stock or it's a crypto. You'll be able to view this directly here from this bar. Moving on, you'll see your positions. So your positions will be grouped based on the asset. So they're separated by options, equities, and crypto. So each will be grouped separately. Additionally, when you're looking at a stock or a crypto or whatnot, you have the option to view those returns differently. So you can toggle between different views. So you can either look at it from a percentage figure or a dollar figure. Similarly, you can look at it from an overall total performance level, or you can isolate it and look at it from a daily performance level, whether that's in a dollar figure or it's in a percentage figure. So you can toggle these views just to give you different views and insights into your holdings. Next up, we've got the Sarwa Market Byte section. Essentially here, you'll find various news articles that we release on a daily and weekly basis. So we have the daily digest as well as the weekly reviews. So it'll give you more insights into the specific stocks or specific trends in the market. Next up, you'll see the cryptocurrencies that we have listed on the platform. Currently, we have 13 cryptos listed on Sarwa Trade. And up next, we have the commodity ETFs. So here you'll find commodities ranging from gold all the way till corn. And next up, we have integrated with Reuters. So with this integration, we'll be able to give you insights into different stocks, market trends, and so on. And this will be more relevant once we go into the next section when we view a specific stock. And next up, we are going to see at the very bottom, you'll see that you'll find the top movers and the most popular stocks on the platform. Going back to the search bar. So in the search bar, this is where you can view certain lists that we've grouped thematically from consumer goods all the way till technology, financial stocks, ETFs, cryptos, you name it. We've done the homework for you. We've grouped them and kind of isolated them for you. But let's say you wanted to look or search for a specific stock. I'm going to use Apple a lot today, so bear with me, and I'm not trying to push Apple in any shape or form, but let's say you wanted to find Apple. So you can just either type Apple into the search bar and the stock will come up for you. Alternatively, you can type the symbol. So it's AAPL. So if you type AAPL into the search bar, it'll pull up Apple. And one neat thing you can do on this page or any other stock page is if you click on that star next to the stock, you'll be able to quickly add that stock to your watch list, whether it's an existing watch list or it's a newly created watch list that you can create from this screen. So it can conveniently add and group your stocks based on different teams, different potentially different criteria that you would isolate your stocks for. So that's it for the trade dashboard overview. Now let's dive into a stock page. So what does it look like? So when you click on a stock, again, I'm using Apple here. So when you click on Apple, it'll take you directly to the stock page. Now, as you know, the first thing you'll see is the price chart where you can toggle different views, different time frames for the price of that stock. Whether you want to look at it from a day, a week, a month, 3 months, all the way up to 5 years, it'll collate that data and show it to you in a nice and smooth way. Below the price figures, you will be able to see some of the notable stats for the stock, such as the dividend yield, the highs and lows for the day or for the past 52 weeks, where you can essentially derive useful information. And referring back to the Reuters integration that I mentioned earlier. So this integration is much more relevant when you're on a specific stock page. So it'll link any article that talks about Apple essentially, and you'll know that because it'll list the symbol underneath the article. So this is a quick and easy way to get relevant information about the stock before you make a decision, or if you're trying to assess whether or not you should buy the stock. Next up, we have the analyst ratings. So we have collated essentially through our data providers, independent analysts that give you essentially their suggestions or their analysis of this stock. What percentage of them are saying to buy, to hold, and to sell the stock. Similarly, we've also included their pricing targets. So here you can see that there's a high and there's a low target. And then in the middle, you'll see the average of all the 54 analysts and their pricing targets for the next 12 months. So it's a very useful way to gain some information and insights onto the stock. But nonetheless, you should always take this information with a grain of salt, right? Always try to do your research, as well as Eamon will dive in momentarily. So this is a great tool, a great resource, but always do your homework and make sure you follow it up with your own research. Lastly, on the stock page, at the very bottom, you'll see general information about this company. What are their business activities? What are their areas of expertise, and so on. Also, you'll see information like who is the CEO? When was the company founded? How many employees does this company have? Where is their headquarters? So it'll give you additional information or useful information that can help you learn more about that stock. All right, going on to the next section. So the new section here, it'll list all the articles if they are available for this stock. Going on next to the order tab. So when you're on the order tab, essentially if you have any pending orders, they will be listed here. In the transaction tab, this will show you all the monetary movements for this stock. So if you buy, you sell the stock, it'll be reflected here. If you are paid out dividends, if the stock splits, so any kind of movement with regards to the stock's monetary movements will be reflected in the transaction tab. So it'll give you a paper trail of any kind of transaction, whether it is done by you or essentially it's a dividend or a split on the stock side. Alrighty, moving on to order types. So what are the different orders that we have on Sarwa Trade? If you are on the app and you click on the trade button at the bottom of the stock page, here you'll get options. So, and by options, I mean choices. So choices that you can either buy. If you do hold the stock, it'll also give you the choice to sell the stock. And of course, if you want to trade in options. So if you click on the buy button, you'll get different order types. And essentially, we have mainly two kinds of orders, a market order and a conditional order. So a market order is the most common, it's the most popular. It's the easiest and quickest way to perform a trade. You get the best available price when markets are open. So that's the market order. Here you can perform a market order in various ways. So you can buy the share or the stock in number of shares. And the reason why we have separated this market order is because Sarwa trade is enabled for fractional trading. So you don't have to buy a full share. You're able to buy half a share, quarter of a share, or whatever amount of share that you like for the price that you're willing to pay. So here I'm demonstrating buying one full share, half a share, quarter of a share, and it'll show you and reflect the price before you can execute that trade. So I'm just going to go through the different versions, but essentially you can also do the same, but in a dollar figure. So so let's say you just wanted to pay, if you wanted to pay the exact amount, that'll almost equate to one. So that's $224. Or you wanted to pay $100 for Apple stock, and it'll show you what that estimated number of shares would be. So this is just another way to perform a market order. So you can either do it in number of shares, or you can do it by dollar value. Next up, we have conditional orders. And for conditional orders, the first conditional order we have is an auto trade. And auto trades are really powerful tools that can help automate and expedite your trading journey. So let's say you, whenever you get your salary, you always buy Apple shares. Instead of doing this every single month, you can automate this. So you can essentially you put the amount that you want to buy in a dollar value, and then you can select the frequency. So you can either do this as a one-time thing, which would be a market order, or you can do this as a daily basis, or weekly, every 2 weeks, monthly. So in the example I used, if you wanted to go for a monthly trade, you would just set it up as a monthly trade, and then you put the amount that you want to buy, and it'll execute for that period that you select, for the amount that you select, and voila, it's set up and no effort required on your end beyond setting it up. So it's a really effective tool to help automate your trades. So that's the first conditional order. The second conditional order we have is a limit order. So what is a limit order? A limit order essentially is when you buy or sell an asset at a specified price or better. So if you set the limit to, let's say in Apple's case, 220, it'll only execute if the price falls at that range, the 220, or lower. It won't execute at a higher level than what you have set. So essentially, it gives you control over how much you're paying over the stock. And I'm just going to illustrate what that looks like. It's fairly simple, very similar to the market order, where you put your price that you're willing to pay, and you then select the order expiry. Key thing here, there are two types of limit orders. So there's a limit order that you can perform during market hours, so when markets are open, or, and this is an additional feature that we've recently launched on Sarwa Trade, we've enabled extended hours. So you're able to essentially place a limit order for stocks outside of the normal opening hours of the US trading hours. So pre-market, post-market trading, you'll be able to essentially through a limit order, place essentially trade a stock, buy a stock when markets are closed. Now, the caveat here is that during these times, trading volumes are lower, so you might not always get the best price, but this is why it's a limit order. You essentially set the price you're willing to pay, and if there are any takers, you'll get that trade. If not, it'll just expire until the next market open. And to do this, you would have to toggle in extended hours. And so when you do that, it automatically sets the expiry to next market close. If you select the alternative or expiry option, it'll disable extended hours, because extended hours essentially must end before the next market open. So that's it for limit order. We're going to go on to stop order next. So what is a stop order? A stop order essentially, you can have a buy or sell stop order, and it's once it reaches a certain price. So essentially it triggers a market order after the set threshold that you place. It's used essentially to limit losses or lock in profits by automating trades when a specified price hits. So similarly to a limit order, you just have to set the price or the stop threshold that you're willing to essentially perform the trade, and that's it. Once you set it up, it'll execute when that condition is met. Going back to the orders tab that I alluded to earlier. So once you're here, if you have any pending orders, whether it's a market order, whether it's an ongoing automated trade, everything will show up on the order list. Now, the key is that it's a pending order, right? Any order that has been performed will be under the transactions tab. But for anything that's still pending or ongoing, such as an automatic trade, will be on the order tab. And here you can easily cancel your pending orders. So all you have to do is click on any of the pending orders that you have. Once you've done that, the page for that order will pop up and you can just click on cancel and it'll immediately cancel. So it's a very effective way to manage all your pending orders and view all of them all in one place. Alrighty, I've spoken enough. I'm sure you're bored of my voice right now. Ayman is going to take you through options trading overview, and over to you, Ayman.
The thing is that now I've got Apple stuck in my head, thanks to you, Faisal. And, considering the fact that it says 41% return, so obviously there must be something in that. But again, we kid, we're not recommending Apple in any shape or form, you know that.
Not at all.
But nonetheless, thank you for passing the baton already at this point. And now, so I'm going to talk a little bit about options and kind of give you an overview. And I'm going to cheat a little bit because we have a really great video that kind of does a really great does a great job and justice to understanding the trading platform itself. But I think it's important to kind of dive into, what is an option. And maybe if we can go to the next page here, Faisal, let's talk about, well, what is an option, or what is an option? Essentially, very simply, an option is a contract that gives you the right, keyword, gives you the right, but not the obligation to either buy or sell an asset at a predetermined price at a certain date. Okay. And this is quite different from traditional stocks, where if you're executing the buy order, you are buying that stock, where in this case, you have the right, but not the obligation, which also means that if you don't have the obligation, you can actually cancel it and not purchase the stock itself. So it's a little bit of a different approach to, to the traditional route itself. Now, why would someone be interested in trading options? Well, you've probably heard the term that variety is the spice of life. And if we can go to the next page, Faisal, I don't know if the screen is frozen, this also just gives you a variety of approaches to trading itself, similar to what Faisal was showing you earlier when he was saying, look, you can buy, you can sell, but you can also do conditional orders, you can also do auto trading. This is another option that you have, essentially, a tool within your tool belt that you can utilize in different markets and different, I would say, conditions itself. It's particularly interesting for those who like to speculate on the market, especially in a variety of different markets, because with options, it does provide an opportunity, whether it's a rising market, a falling market, or even if it's a flat market, there is some shape or form, a way to benefit from it, but through the use of options trading itself. And for those who already have large positions, they typically will use options as a way to hedge against potential, underperformance in their portfolio itself. So imagine you have a large position in Apple already, but maybe you want to hedge your position by using options. This is some of the reasons as to why an individual may trade options. Let's get into, well, what are the basic types of options that you can purchase through Sarwa Trade? Well, you can do a call option, or purchase a call option, or sell a call option. So essentially, a call option gives a buyer the right, but not the obligation, to buy a stock. It's more specific, to buy a stock at a specified price before a certain date. Essentially, the idea is that the buyer benefits if the stock's price increases above the agreed price. Whereas if we go to the next slide, so this is a call option, now we're going to talk about a put option. A put option gives the buyer the right, but not the obligation, to sell a stock at a specified price before a certain date. How the individual benefits is that if the asset's price drops below the agreed price, that's how they benefit. Well, what are the other terms that we have to take into consideration? Go to the next slide. We have to think about, well, what's the strike price? I ask, well, what is a strike price? A strike price is the predetermined price at which the buyer of an option can buy or sell the underlying stock itself. It's essentially the price that you agreed upon when the option contract is created at the time. Now you might ask, okay, well, if I'm not obligated to buy the stock, what's in it for the person who will, who's potentially selling the stock to me, right? Well, that's where the concept of premium comes in. Oh, actually, I jumped a little bit ahead here, but maybe let's jump into the next slide here. I can go back to expiration dates. So if we go to premium, the premium essentially is the price that you pay to the seller for the right, but not the obligation to buy or sell an asset at the strike price before the expiration date. Essentially, it's the cost of purchasing the option itself. That's the premium that you pay in order to enter into this negotiation or into this contract with the seller themselves. Now, there is a determined date or predetermined date, and that's where we can go back to the previous slide where we talk about expiration dates. In options trading, there is an expiration date, which is the last date in which an option holder can exercise the right to buy or sell the underlying asset. Which means that if you don't exercise that option before the expiry date, it essentially becomes null and void. It becomes worthless at that point in time. Now, let's kind of put this all together. So we've talked about a call option, put option, we talked about strike dates, we talked about what's a premium. Let's jump into showing what that all looks like in one video itself. So if I may ask you, Faisal, if you can cue the video, there's a very familiar doppelganger. I don't know this person, but he looks very similar to me. But maybe if you can just press play on the video and let us see what this gentleman has to say.
Let's see.
Hi, I'm Eamon Gebri, VP of Wealth Advisory at Sarwa. Today, I'm going to walk you through trading options on our platform. I'll explain what you'll see on screen, what everything means, and guide you through an example of buying a call option. So let's get started. Let's start with the basics. Buying a call can be beneficial if you expect the stock's price to rise. The first thing you'll need to do is activate options trading on your account. For details, refer to the FAQ page in the description below. Now, once that's active, you'll go to the Trade tab on the Sarwa app and find the stock you're interested in trading. Now, for today's example, we're going to use Tesla. Now, when you choose Tesla, a new window will pop up that will give you information about the stock. Next, you proceed to trade. Once you select trade, a menu will open that provides you the possibility to buy, sell, what we're looking to do today, options. A new window will open up, providing you with a menu of opportunities for you to go through with options trading. At the top, this is where you select the options contract expiry date. Next, you'll see below the option to either buy or sell a contract. And right beside it, you will see the option of call or put. So let's just say that you're quite bullish on Tesla. You can see that the current price is right here, and you feel that the price will go up at a certain date in the future. You would first choose the expiry date here, then you would choose buy, and in this section, you would choose call. Now you've decided on the expiry date that you're going to buy a call option because you believe the price of the stock will go up by then. But as you can see, there are multiple options contracts on the screen, each with varying strike prices. The goal when buying a call option is for the market price of the stock to rise above the strike price you've chosen. If this happens, the option is considered in the money, meaning you have the opportunity to buy the stock at the lower strike price and sell it at the higher market price, capturing a profit. You're also going to see a bar that shows the current share price of the stock. For example, for buying a call, contracts above this bar are considered to be out of the money, while those below are considered to be in the money or at the money. Another detail to note is that for each options contract, you can actually see how much the stock needs to move in order to reach the break-even point. This is essentially where you make up the cost of the premium if the contract expires. On the right-hand side is the premium that you're going to be paying to purchase the options contract. The premium is essentially the cost you pay to purchase the contract. Below the premium is today's change in the premium's price. Now, keep in mind that when you're buying an options contract, you are purchasing in lot sizes of 100. This means that you will be exercising an option to purchase 100 shares of the stock. Let's quickly summarize. We've decided on the expiry date, the strike price, and we've reviewed the price of the options contract. We are ready to proceed with executing the trade. Once you choose the options contract, you'll be taken to a page where you can find information on previous closes, daily highs, daily lows, and also key metrics like the Greeks, which help you understand the risks and potential changes in an option's value. You can also see the bid-ask spread of the premium and the implied volatility, which essentially measures how much the market expects the stock price to move in the future, which of course is a key factor in determining the price of an options contract. Once you've reviewed this, you proceed to buy. Immediately, you'll be provided the option to choose the number of contracts that you would like to purchase. Remember again, one options contract means that you'll be exercising an option to purchase 100 shares of the stock. Now, for this example, I'm going to choose one contract for illustration purposes. Below order type, you can choose to either buy the option as a market order, or you can use a limit order. Now, by default, we do set options to a limit order, because while market orders are executed quickly, there's no guarantee of a specific price. So we do recommend limit orders to avoid significant price fluctuations, especially for options which often trade with limited volume. By default, for limit orders, the bid price applies for selling and the asking price applies for buying, but you can always change it. Please note that limit orders may not always be executed if the market doesn't reach your specified price. After submitting a limit order, simply refresh the homepage to check its status and see if it's been executed. Congratulations, you have now purchased the call option through Sarwa Trade. Now, on your trade homepage, you'll see a list of options you hold, along with their performance. Now, to view details about a specific options contract, just simply click on it. This will show you the actions you can take, such as exercising the contract or trading it. If you want to sell a long call, for example, you would click Trade, select Sell, and enter the number of contracts you'd like to sell. Platform will very intuitively display the potential earnings from the sale. And that's all for this video. Happy trading.
This guy is troublesome, just troublesome. So that's essentially, we just talked about options here, and look, there is a wealth of information on this, whether you go to our FAQ page on our website, our YouTube channel has tutorials on there as well too. Of course, there's no substitution to doing your own research, of course, and that there is a steeper learning curve when it comes to options trading strategies themselves. But if this is an area of interest, there's a wealth of information that's out there. But speaking of information, and as I said earlier, one of the most common questions that Faisal and I and the rest of the advisors that get, that we receive here at Sarwa is, hey, look, I'm really eager to kind of take control, be behind his driver's wheel, and I want to buy stocks myself. I see this as an area of interest for me, and I want to be, I want to be the primary driver towards my financial independence, but I don't know where to start. And the common answer that you'll receive everywhere you go is like, hey, do your own research. But what does that look like itself, right? Well, let's walk you through that in this case, if it's all right. So when it comes to purchasing stocks, research is integral to a successful investment experience. Of course, it doesn't guarantee success, but it definitely will increase the odds, and chances of not making mistakes, I would say. And I qualify mistakes as, random assortment of stocks that you've chosen based on what you've heard, or maybe what a friend told you, or maybe something you may have just saw pop up on your Instagram feed, right? The thing is, though, when it comes to research, there is no one, I would say, method to conduct research. There's a variety of different ways, and each method offers unique benefits or insights, and it's also dependent on, the individual's investor goals. And the reason why there's such a variety of different research methods is because markets in general are complex and they change. They're very rarely constant. And that's why sometimes you might have to apply different approaches dependent on what the market conditions are at that time, whether it be your time horizon, maybe your risk tolerances, your analytical perspectives, and of course, as I said, markets themselves. That's why there's a wide variety of different research avenues that you can go down. Now, we're going to isolate and hone in on one specifically today, but in the next slide, I wanted to just highlight to you some of the common ones or popular ones. And I want to talk about a little bit more about, maybe I'm going to start from the bottom up because we're going to focus on fundamental analysis today. Company communications. There is a methodology in which you review official company communications, including press releases, earnings calls, shareholder letters, essentially to gauge the management's outlook and strategic priorities of that company itself. So this is one method that is exercised or utilized by individuals who are picking stocks. Another method could be just simply focusing on stocks that have been designated as being ESG or environmentally, social, and they meet environmental, social, and governance factors themselves, which essentially means it's a company that you evaluate a company's performance on sustainability, ethical practices, and governance policies, reflecting its impact on society and the environment itself. There's also sentiment analysis, and sentiment analysis is, as you would imagine, it assesses market or public sentiment around a stock by either analyzing the news, social media, or just asking other investors. There's quantitative analysis for those who are mathematically inclined, in which you use mathematical models and statistical data, such as price trends and historical performances to make investment decisions. Technical analysis is very popular with day traders who are essentially just focusing on price movements of the stock itself. In some cases, I have colleagues who are in this industry who don't even know the companies that they're investing in. I mean, they have their filters, they have their not necessarily algorithms, but essentially their filters that feed them stock that meets their requirements, and they buy into the stock, they get out of the stock, and they don't even know anything about the company because all they're paying attention to is just the price movements on a chart. So this is one method that is, used by traders themselves. The one that we want to focus on today is fundamental analysis. If we can go to the next slide, fundamental analysis is a core method used to evaluate a stock's potential for profitability, stability, and growth. It provides you a very holistic view of the company. I mean, if you really get down to brass tacks, you're going to know more about this company if you go down this process, probably more than your partner. I mean, it's going to be a great party trick if anybody ever asks you about Apple or any other stock for that matter. It really comes down to what you're looking at is the financial health, the competitive position of the company, and of course, understanding and analyzing any external factors that may impact the value of the stock itself. So what does that entail? What is fundamental analysis? And unfortunately, you're probably going to hate me for the next 5 minutes, but it's okay. I'm used to it. I've got a 9-year-old and I have to sit with her for her math homework, and I'm used to it. But this is essential just to kind of highlight to you what goes into fundamental analysis. But I promise you, there is a reward at the end where I'm going to show you first the long way, the tough way, the one where you're really going to be intimately familiar with the stock itself. And then I'm also going to show you a shortcut as to how to be able to get those answers. But essentially, when you're doing fundamental analysis, you are looking at the company's financial statements. You are looking at their financial ratios. You're looking at their competitive positioning and if there's any market trends, or if there's an external threat, or maybe the management board. These are essentially 3 key pillars, and there are some sub-pillars, but for the focus of our conversation today, these are 3 key pillars that will help you better understand the company itself. So let's dive in. When we talk about financial statements, if I can ask you to the next slide, Faisal, essentially you're going to start by looking at the balance sheet. And why that's important, because the balance sheet will give you a very, good overall view or a snapshot view of the company's assets, liabilities, and shareholders' equity at any specific point in time. You're going to look at essentially, well, what are their assets? What are the company's assets? Do they have cash? Do they have inventory? Do they have accounts receivables? Do they have long-term assets like property or equipment? Or maybe their liabilities. Are they, relatively liquid? I mean, meaning, are there significantly more assets and liabilities, both in short-term obligations like accounts payable, or long-term obligations like long-term debts? You might want to look at their shareholders' equity as well, which shows you the residual interest in assets after liabilities are deducted and includes retained earnings and contributed capital. Don't worry if this doesn't, click right away. There is going to be some support. And also, as I said, this is recorded, so you'll be able to review this video afterwards. But if I can still go back to the financial statements, Faisal, other aspects to look at when you look at the financial statements would be their income statement. followed by their cash flow statement. You want to understand if the company's using cash effectively. Are they spending, I know how they're spending their money on investments, such as purchasing new assets. How is their cash flow related to debt, dividends, and share repurchases? This gives you a holistic view of the company's financial health. Now, what do you do with this data, right? And this is where we move into the ratios. Because at the end of the day, when you get all this information, you're not operating in a vacuum. You're essentially looking at the financial health of a company relative to another company, which might be within the same industry. Essentially, you're trying to assess whether should I put it all on, black, really, if there's any, the roulette table players here in the audience, but essentially you're trying to determine if this is the right company to invest in. If we can go to the next slide there on the financial ratios, Faisal. And essentially here you're looking at profitability ratios, you're looking at liquidity ratios, you're looking at leverage ratios. You're trying to better understand, is this company heavily leveraged or are they quite flush with cash? You're looking at valuation ratios, and the whole idea is that you want to be able to get a good understanding of what their financial standing is, with really concrete, no bias, just strictly the numbers itself. If you go to the next slide, here's where we're going to start talking about things where you may not necessarily quantify, but it's important to know because these numbers need to operate within a context itself, right? So when you talk about, for example, market position, well, how is the company standing relative to competitors within its industry? What level of market share does this particular company that you're interested in investing in have relative to its competitor? What are the growth rates for this industry? Are they growing? Are they declining? These are crucial information that you need to know about the company itself. Do they have any competitive advantages? Moats, some would say, just for short. I mean, let's think of companies like, for example, Broadcom. Let's think of companies like NVIDIA. Let's think of companies like Taiwan Semiconductors. These are companies who have established really strong moats because of the level of investment that they've done in research and development, that they are, I don't know, not to kind of exaggerate here, but they're light years ahead of the nearest competitor. It would take a competing company significant contribution into or investment into R&D and significant amount of time to get to the level that these companies that I've highlighted have gotten to at this point in time. So they tend to enjoy those competitive advantages, and investors have recognized this as well too as being a great investment, decision to get into. Now, again, this is not a recommendation in those companies, but just to kind of give you an example of companies who've established very strong moats. The company itself, do they have great products? Are they unique to them? Do they offer high quality offerings that stand out relative to competitors themselves? What about external factors? Maybe maybe the company that you're interested in is only operating in a certain number of countries that may be experiencing low GDP growth. Maybe they have high unemployment numbers. Maybe they have low unemployment numbers. Maybe interest rates are low, interest rates are high. These are all variables to help you kind of get a more holistic view of the company itself. And of course, any other external factors or influences that you want to factor in, like I said, in economic indicators, industry trends, it could be macro, micro, but could also be on a company level, on a board level. It could also be other consideration that you may have. So for those who are halal investors, maybe some halal consideration, or if you are into ESG, maybe ESG considerations themselves. All of this essentially, this homework that you've done, that you probably have not enjoyed that experience, essentially culminates into the following slide. And it's almost like a fill in the blank exercise itself, where you're essentially analyzing a company and you're looking at the revenue, the net income, total assets, liabilities, and you're plotting them all down there, all in one sheet itself. Now, this is the traditional way of doing fundamental analysis. And tradition is great, but we have a lot of tools nowadays that actually do this work for you, and which I'm going to get into in a little bit. Now, I think it's important to know, well, where do you get this information? I think it's essential to kind of highlight, where to get the source of this information, because sometimes if you get it from a secondary web place or whatnot, then you're not really doing your own research at that point in time. So if I may ask you, Faisal, to go to the next slide, this is where you can get information such as the quarterly earnings reports. You can get the annual, the name is the annual. Oh my God, Faisal, I'm having a brain fart here. Quarterly earnings, annual. I can't even remember it. It'll come to me in a second. Forgive me on that one. It'll come to me in a second. But nonetheless, here's where you can actually be able to get the information. You can go to the company's investor relations website. You can go to the SEC, or you can go to the regulatory bodies. If your stock that you're interested in is held overseas, especially you can go, for example, if you're in the UK, you can go to Companies House in the UK. You can go to the Australian Securities and Investments Commission. You can go, if you're investing in stocks in Japan, you can go to the Financial Services Agency. If you're investing in stocks in Europe, you can go to European Securities and Markets Authority, and here's where you can get the name is slipping me right now, and it's such a silly thing. I've said it a million times, but it'll come to me in a second. Stock exchange websites themselves is where you can get the information directly from the New York Stock Exchange or the London Stock Exchange. You can go to financial data platform, Bloomberg, Morningstar, Yahoo, etc. This is essentially where you can get the information that you're looking for. Now, if we can go to the next slide, Faisal. Brilliant. So how do you expedite the research? Well, essentially, you expedite the research by using tools such as ChatGPT. This is one method that you can use to, I would say, to expedite, not necessarily replace the way that you actually conduct research. This is a way that you can actually essentially validate the research that you've done. And we want to kind of show you an exercise as to how you can do that. You'll be quite surprised as to how you're able to use this very powerful tool. There you go. Thank you. Annual financial statement. That's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you very much. You're able to essentially provide this information to ChatGPT and say a very simple prompt, such as analyze the uploaded financial statement of Amazon, provide me fundamental analysis focusing on, you can literally just put the criteria yourself. You can put, hey, give me the information on the revenue, give me the equity, give me the ticker symbol, give me the market cap, the stock price. And this will yield you the information that you're looking for. And again, I would recommend to use it as a validation tool more than as a replacement for the work that I would recommend you to do if you are a purist and if you want to do a conducted research yourself. So you can get the information you're looking for, such as revenue, the most recent revenue, net sales based on the quarterly earnings that we've uploaded to ChatGPT. You want to get the dividend yield. Well, Amazon does not pay a dividend at this point in time. You can get the gross profit margin, operating margin. You can get the return on equity. It's done the homework for you. But again, even in this day and age with this amazing technology and AI does sometimes have hallucinations. Some would call it mistakes. Some would call it in a more favorable term as hallucinations, that it does make mistakes. So it's important to just use it as a validation tool. Now, you might ask, okay, great, especially if you're at the beginning of your journey. Well, I've got all this information and I've got the data, I've got the figures that I need. Well, how do I know what this data means? And what I mean by that is, as we said, it's not in a vacuum. It's relative to other companies within the same industry. It's also relative to other companies who are operating in different industries. So how do I know if the numbers that I've been able to, culminate and figure out are actually good news or bad news with regards to the stock? Well, you'll be happy to know that we've kind of put some target benchmarks on the screen for you. And essentially, when you're reviewing the figures, you can kind of assess if the company is healthy by looking at the gross profit margin. If it's greater than 20% or it ranges between 20 to 40%, that's a healthy and typical profit margin. We can look at the operating margin, which is greater than 15% to 20%. That's a typical range. And of course, every industry is different. There's a difference between, let's just say, if it's a company that's in energy relative to a tech company, relative to a pharmaceutical company. So they do have their own ranges themselves, but this would be more of a holistic target benchmark to look for. As an example, just as an example, Warren Buffett, very, public about what he looks for when he's looking to invest in a company. And he breaks it down to these very simple numbers. He looks at the debt to equity ratio. He looks at the current ratio, return on equity. He looks at return on assets. He looks to see if the company has a stable book value growth, the earnings per share growth, and he looks to see if the company has a moat. He spends a significant amount of time understanding the management style of the organization itself. And he's been famously quoted as saying, look, I invest in companies in which I don't need to operate or manage myself. I invest in managers. I invest in great products. I invest in companies that have great moats because I want to let them do their thing. Let them run the company. I'm an investor, and he takes that approach when it comes to investing itself. So again, feel free to take a screenshot. If not, absolutely fine. This is a recorded session itself, so you'll have access to this afterwards. And I did promise that there is a shortcut, and the shortcut is probably very obvious, but just wanted to highlight a page that I like to use from time to time to help me better understand a company itself. It's a company called TradingView. The TradingView has done a spectacular job of consolidating the information in easy to digest, bite-sized ways to be able to obtain the information. So the same information that we have just sat down and analyzed together, or at least an example of, you can actually obtain it yourself. So if you want to look at the financials, you've got the financials. You can actually even dive into the technicals themselves. You can look at the valuation company, the valuation ratios, the growth and profitability. It's all there. And they obviously have different tiers of service. So you've got the free subscription, and you've also got a paid subscription depending on how much information you're looking for. So if you're looking for a shortcut, and if you were doing a math problem, you just want to get to the answer right away, you've got companies, a lot of data providers who can provide you this information. But if you really want to truly understand the company and really kind of grow, your knowledge along with, you owning that company itself over the years, it's a really great way to kind of dive into the company and do the research yourself. And that's essentially what doing your own research means. In summary, I think I'm talking myself out here, Faisal. Research is integral to investing. There's many different ways to review a stock. There's no one way that's better than the other. There is a core way, which is a fundamental analysis. It's a core method of analysis. Doing your own research can be expedited. It is quite onerous. I understand that. There are tools and resources available to you to help you do your research. And with that, I think what we'll do is maybe we'll go over to the Q&A. We've got about 8 minutes in our session. Happy to address any questions individuals might have about our Sarwa trade platform.
Thank you, Eamon. That was great. All right, let's open up the questions.
Kind of left me hanging there a little bit, Faisal. I was like, the name slipped me, and I'm like, hey, where are you? But it's okay. You let me swim and tread water until I found it.
One of the questions / comments is from Anonymous, and they said, I think the word you're looking for is annual report, Eamon. So that's the first.
I really appreciate that, Mr. Anonymous or Miss Anonymous. First question by Mazen says, based on Sarwa history, how accurate is the analyst price target? I have no reason to believe that they weren't accurate, because if that was the case, I think a lot of customers would have probably told us by now, and we would probably have stopped paying for it and probably change it to another subscriber. So I would say it's fairly accurate. And in the methodology, I think it's important to analyze to understand how the analyst ratings come in. So our data provider essentially will do a random sampling of hundreds, if not thousands, of analysts all around the world, and essentially they'll give you a concise recommendation, or I would say projection, of what these analysts have set. They'll give you the price targets accordingly. But saying that, that is the opinion at that point in time, Mazen, right? Which can change significantly the next day. So that's when it was collated, and that's when the information was uploaded. And this is uploaded on a daily basis, but that can change very quickly. So advice that you've received, or guidance or price targets that you've received a week ago may not necessarily be applicable a week later. So I think it's important to take that into consideration. I don't believe anything replaces doing your own research and experience, but it helps to validate, and also helps to get insights from third parties as well too.
Thank you, Eamon. We have a question from Tamara E. Can you share perspective on why someone might want to trade outside market hours? Any pros, cons to keep in mind beyond limit trading volume? I think one of the pros or one of the advantages is, let's say, again, we're going to use Apple, but let's say there's a big scandal with Apple, and something really bad happened with Apple, and you want to take advantage of that, and you anticipate that the price might take a dip. So being able to trade or buy Apple stock before markets open and before the price takes a hit, that's one of the pros, I would say, advantages to trading pre or post market.
No, absolutely. I mean, look, things can change overnight, and some news might come out during business hours, and some news might come out after office hour after trading hours. So essentially, I think that would be a benefit. Secondly, I mean, it's also about the time difference between here and the US markets, for example. So time difference does make it a challenge. So when you're done work, then it could be treated as a job to trade in the evening itself. So if you're comfortable trading during extended market hours, then at least it gives you that flexibility to trade during that period of time. Although granted, I mean, look, you mentioned it before, there's lower liquidity, but there's also the impact of that, there's this wider spreads, potentially wider spreads between the bid-ask spread when you're purchasing a stock. So that might essentially cost you a little bit more. And there's higher volatility. So these are the things that may be of concern. And hence that's why the default is, we do recommend using conditional orders when you do after hours trading, just because it could what you desire to purchase a stock could be very different from what it's actually available for during after hours trading.
Thank you, Eamon. We have a question from Anonymous. He asked, or she asked, hi, is it possible to invest in S&P 500 using Sarwa Trade? Absolutely. So we have a list of, going back to what we showed previously. If you click on the search tab, it'll take you to the list section. There we've grouped a number of popular ETFs. So you'll see a bunch of different S&P 500 ETFs. Some of the most notable ones are SPY, VOO, but there are loads of other ones. So you'll definitely find them on Sarwa Trade.
Absolutely. There's a whole list of ETFs that track the S&P, as Faisal said, that you can get access to on Sarwa Trade itself. What do we got here? What's the difference between trading options and limit orders? So trading options itself is essentially that you have the right but not the obligation to buy or sell the pending stock, whereas a limit order essentially is a conditional order, meaning that if the certain parameters are met, that trade will be executed and you're actually buying the stock at that point in time. So if you have a conditional order that's open, that's essentially is the commitment itself. And you can put an expiry date, but some people leave it open-ended as well too. But if you've communicated or if you've put it into your app saying that I would like to buy Apple if it reaches X value, it is going to execute, assuming that it hits that value itself. So that's the commitment, and you're buying the actual shares at that point in time.
Thank you, Eamon.
What we got here next?
Anonymous asked, can we buy options on an index like S&P or only on individual shares?
You can, absolutely. So you can trade options on ETFs that track indices as well too. So a very popular one would be, for example, the S&P 500. It could be SPDR. You can exercise you can basically buy an option for SPDR itself on Sarwa Trade. There's a feedback here on Sarwa Trade needs a desktop app. Anonymous, I agree with you 100%. And to give you an idea, that is absolutely in the pipeline itself. That is a matter of when, not if. Let's put it that way. So it is in the development phase. It's a lot of work to make it happen, but we're excited to make it happen because honestly, there's only so much that you can do within an app itself. And as we add more features, the real estate space tends to be, a little bit, I would say a little bit limited on what we can do. So I agree with you. And we are going to be launching the desktop version at some point in time. It's just hard for me to give you a timeline right now, but it is in development phase itself. And I just do want to also note another improvement that is in the pipeline as well too, is that the information that we were talking about, the fundamental analysis, being able to get the ratios, etc., you're going to start seeing enhancements to be able to provide you a lot more information on the stocks that you're purchasing. We had always favored simplicity and easy to use interface. And what we found in the past was that it tends to be very overwhelming, especially for first-time investors or even investors who've been investing for some time. They don't want the noise. So we have always favored simplicity and, the basic information that you needed. But there is a growing, I would say, voice that says that, well, we would like a little bit more information. So we're trying to strike that balance, and you are going to start seeing some improvements on the app that is going to give you access to information to help you decide right then and there if this is the right stock to invest in versus having to go to a third-party website.
Thank you, Eamon. So we have a question from John Paul. When we're investing in Sarwa trade, are we receiving the dividends and where are they shown on the application? Great question. So essentially, when you're paid a dividend, whether it's from Apple or any other stock, you'll see it reflected in your cash tab in your balance. So it'll reflect there as cash, but also you will see it in the transaction tab. So going back to that example, let's say you go to the stock page for Apple and you click on the transactions tab, you'll be able to see again, all the movements with regard to that stock, whether you've bought, you've sold, you've received a dividend, the stock has split. So any kind of movement, a monetary movement will reflect on the transactions tab under the stock page. Similarly, on the main Sarwa trade dashboard, it will reflect on the overall transactions tab there.
Thank you for that, Faisal. Saju asks, TradingView. I anticipated a question about TradingView because we use it, but we don't work with them. We're not affiliated with them. It's just I like it. I like to use it. And TradingView, is it paid or is it free? So they have a you can sign up for free trial period, essentially, but they also have paid memberships as well too, depending on what level of information that you're looking for. Anwar asks, how can I know about Sharia compliant stocks on Sarwa? So essentially, there's some filtration that you need to do. There's essentially some research that you need to do to identify if the stocks themselves are considered Sharia compliant. At this stage, there isn't a filter on the app itself that allows you to just filter explicitly on Sharia compliant stocks themselves, but there's a lot of third-party websites that will allow you to do robust, I would say, research to identify if they're Sharia or not. There's also ETFs that are specifically tracking Sharia compliant companies as well too, and you can find that right on the app itself. But whatever's available in the US market, and there's a number of Sharia compliant stock opportunities in the US market that are also available on the stock itself. So the research itself, that's something that is required of yourself to be able to do. Now, alternatively, we do have Sarwa Invest. For those who may not be familiar with Sarwa Invest, it's our model portfolio solution that we have where we essentially create a diversified portfolio of ETFs to help you grow your wealth in a very sustainable manner. And due to the diversification, you typically will see lower volatility, and essentially you're able to better plan to be able to achieve your financial growth and receive financial goals and to be able to receive growth along the journey itself. So in that case, for Sarwa Invest, we do have 3 distinct portfolios, one of which is a halal portfolio, which is made up of ETFs that cover the US market, emerging markets, developed markets. You have Sukuk, you have gold, basically all packaged together into a long-term solution that you can invest in, Anwar. So that is something that if you're interested, have a look at our website. We've got some really great information on there.
Thank you, Ayman. We are over time. Do you want to take
let's take 2 more. Just do 2 more. Yeah. I mean, we've punished everyone by listening to us for the last hour. It's the least that we can do.
Plus, any unanswered questions, we will do our best to get back to you. Unfortunately, if you've left the question as anonymous, we won't have your contact details. So if you want to make sure your question gets answered, please make sure to submit it not as anonymous. But yeah, we'll get 2 more questions.
Sure.
All right. Okay, so we have a question from Anonymous. I guess we'll address Anonymous's since we won't be able to later. Your research methodology is based on identifying stocks, but what is your recommendation to finding stocks in the first place? I
didn't quite understand the question.
I think what he means is essentially the analysis you showed or the methodology you showed is once you've already found that stock and then you analyze it accordingly. But then I'm assuming they're asking, well, then how do you first find that stock in the first place?
How do you first? So it's just like essentially, well, first it's like, well, what do I want to invest into, right? Well, so there are screeners that you can use that basically put in the variables and it will spit out stock recommendations for you, right? So let's just say in that example, we were talking about Warren Buffett, where these are the metrics of what types of companies that he's interested in investing into, with the exception of some of the macro and some of the, I would say, the intangible aspects itself. And even looking at TradingView, for example, you are able to literally type in those variables. I want a company that has this level of earnings growth and this level, I don't know, whatever ratio you want to use. And essentially you'll be able to give you some recommendations based on that. So it's a screener is essentially what you would be looking for in that case.
Thank you, Eamon.
Maybe take the one by. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. If you already got one in mind.
I was going to take the one by Nazish.
That's the one I was gonna pick. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So now asked, hi, what is your advice on that? How long should we keep money in ETF account? That's a great question. I think that goes back to you, right? What are your goals? What is your time horizon? Do you have a specific goal? And a goal can either be time bound or value bound. So let's say your goal is to invest until you reach or until your returns are 50% or 30%. So you have a milestone, right? So once you reach that threshold, then you sell. Or it can be time bound. So let's say I want to invest in this ETF or stock or crypto, whatever asset for 2 years. So then you're bound by that time frame. So it really depends on what you're aiming to achieve. What are your goals, your time horizon, your risk appetite as well. So there's a lot of factors when it comes to this question. It really depends on you and your goals and your time horizon. Eamon, would you add anything to
Appreciate
that?
that. No, I think you hit it right on the head. Honestly, Faisal, it's such a it's an open-ended question, and I think it requires context and it requires a conversation and a little bit of analysis, understanding about what your goals are, and determining what your liquidity needs will be at that stage in time, essentially. And there's no one way to peel an orange, as they would say sometimes.
Right.
I think let's call it a day. But a special message I wanted to just share with everyone is I said, look, along your journey, you're likely going to come across others who are also going through the same path as you, who are looking to learn, who are looking to better understand how to start investing. And there's many ways you can help your colleagues itself. We can be introduce them to some of our content, and a great way to do that is maybe tag them on whatever socials you're using, or maybe just highlight to them our website, whatever might be. Our YouTube is a whole wealth of information that you have access to. Or failing that, introduce them to us. We'd love to take care of them. We take our job quite seriously here. We love what we do, and we're passionate about what we do, and we would love to share that with your friends and colleagues as well too. On that note, have a wonderful night, and thank you, Faisal, for hosting this with me.
Thank you, Eamon. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.